Hello, everyone. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to remind you that my book, Drummers on Drumming, is available now on Amazon as both a paperback and an ebook. Based on the Big Fat Five segment of this podcast, where I sit down with my favorite drummers to discuss the 5 records and stories that shaped their approach to the instrument, this book is packed with insights from the drummers who redefined how we think about the modern drum set. You can grab your copy now by checking the link in this episode's show notes or simply searching Drummers on Drumming on Amazon. So thank you for all the support, and now let's get into the show.
Hi, this is Stella Mozgawa, and I am Ben's guest on Big Fat Five.
What is up? Welcome back to Big Fat Five, a podcast financially supported by Big Fat Snare Drum. This week's guest is Stella Mozgawa, drummer for the band Warpaint. In addition to her band, she's also collaborated with Courtney Barnett, Kurt Vile, Flea, Adam Green, Regina Spektor, The XX, Sharon Von Eaten, and many, many more. It's basically a list of all the cool kids, but like the actual cool kids. I'm truly a fan of Stella, so having watched and read many of her interviews before, I knew she has incredible taste in music, and I was stoked to hear what she had to say. Her style was most recently dissected in my episode with Martina Barakoska, being that Stella was one of her Big Fat Five, so go check that out, please. Basically, Stella's the shit, she's rad on and off the drums, and this was a truly joyful conversation. I hope you enjoy my chat with Stella about the 5 records that made her into the drummer she is today. Cheers. So I did want to start off by playing a few songs, and you don't know what they are, and some of them aren't you playing on them, but I want to play them and just tell me where it takes you. This is good.
Yeah. This takes me to a heavenly place.
Yeah. All right, so that was Regurgitator, and the song is the song formerly known as. But yeah, what does that mean to you?
Wow, so many things. I mean, it's definitely my teenage years. It's my childhood in Australia. It's listening to. It's watching and listening to a program called Rage, which was kind of a staple for a lot of young Australians growing up in the 90s and 2000s. Regurgitator they're still playing, just a really iconic Australian band. 2 of my good friends play in, but I really looked up to them when I was younger. Yeah, that's actually my favorite song of theirs, and okay. I know it is a lot of people's favorite Regurgitator songs. And I started when I was still in university. I started playing with the bass player Ben Eli in his solo project, which was called Jump to Lightspeed. And
that's a sick name.
Yeah, and then I befriended Quan, the singer and guitarist, and then I moved to America. And I was there for a couple of years, and then I got a call from Ben saying, "Oh, our drummer is actually having a baby. Would you come back to Australia and do a tour supporting Devo with us?" And it was still to this day the best tour I've ever done with a group of my friends. And my friend Saya Vogel was playing synthesizer. She played my dad's Blue SH-101. And it was such a heartwarming experience to me, because it was really one of those full circle moments where you grow up listening to a band, you're so inspired by them. It gives you this permission, or this, it allows you to dream of a world of where you're a professional musician, or you're playing in a band, or whatever it was. It was just, this kind of really creative, really interesting band that a lot of people looked up to in Australia and influenced a lot of modern Australian bands. And then getting to play with them, supporting the band that they were influenced by, it was like this hall of mirrors, this joyful hall of mirrors for me.
Yeah, I think we both share an insane love for Devo. So, Alan's top 5 for me.
Absolutely.
Was that during Josh's tenure? So you got to hang out with Josh? No,
it was, I think he had been playing with them for a while, and they had a fill-in drummer. His name was Neil. Oh, I feel bad. I don't remember his surname, but
Neil,
Neil Young.
It's Neil Young.
Yeah, Neil Young was filling in.
Wow,
playing
what an
drums
incredible
for Devo.
experience.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, now that you say Alan, I'm like, damn, that should have been one of my top 5. But I knew I was going to not regret my decisions, but I knew something would come up that would pinch me.
I mean, I always say at every conversation, like, I'm sure if I were to have you back on in 2 months, it would be 5 completely different.
Absolutely.
So I'm with you. I feel bad that I make people who
It's
are your 5 favorite children. Done. I know. Yeah. I'm a jerk.
Yeah, you're a terrorist. Yeah.
But all right. So number 2, and this one I believe is you on drums.
Okay.
Trivial nights creeping through your memory, singing songs on sand and the water about the perfect time to give it away. You and I, thinking back to a New York summer. You were mine, so young and undiscovered.
Wow.
Great drumming on that one.
Thanks so much. Feels like 45 years since I last heard that song, and since the experience of recording that. But that was the first band that I played in after moving to America. And it was my best friend's brother's, he was part of the project. His name's Nick Mabry. He's still in LA he plays with Perry Farrell and a bunch of other great musicians. And yeah, I was probably 19 or so when I started playing with him in this project. And then, yeah, we moved to New York, and I was 20 at the time, and it was just insane. And I thought I would just be in America for 2 years. And it was a very exciting time. We recorded that at Avatar Studios, that place in New York. I think David Bowie did Black Star there, or like some of it. And it's just a bit, it's like this iconic studio. And I lived in New York, which was a crazy concept when you're 20 years old, growing up in, the suburbs of Sydney, Australia. I mean, it was definitely my rock pig days, which I feel maybe not truly behind me. They're still part of my molecular makeup, but it's very, very fun to listen back to that. I actually wrote that riff because we had to quickly, I remember we had like a month to write the record before we went into Avatar, and everyone was just throwing stuff at the wall. And I remember writing that riff and bringing it to the band, and it was just like, oh, that was easy.
Your guys' job is so easy.
Yeah, it's so easy. I could do it with my eyes closed. I think it was actually the first time that I'd kind of written something for a band in that way. And just remember it being accepted very quickly and transformed into a song. And everyone was a little bit older than me and really professional. And I was just trying to keep up and
What did that do for your confidence? I mean, as a writer?
I think it was just opened a door, just made everything feel a little bit more possible. I don't think I was like, wow, I am Brian Wilson writing Smile,
Yeah.
Certified genius. I think it was more like, I can actually do this occasionally, and with the help of, a group of people that are open enough to collaborate on it, that can just turn into something. But yeah, that was my first 2 years in America and 2 years living in New York, where I was full-on rock pig.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're a great host, because you're transitioning very nicely into my next pick, which is a collaboration you've done very recently. So here we go.
Take it day by day. You gotta put one foot in.
Which is cool. Very different drumming.
Yes.
You'll get what you want, I promise, but don't give up.
I mean, this is very Alan Myers drumming right here. I love it.
Yes. That's a huge compliment.
I was going to say, I think my favorite drum track of Alan's is Blockhead from Duty Down for the Future. And it's just that's kind of my
That's your
Mount
pinnacle.
Olympus. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because it's so simple, but also so complicated.
Yes. Yeah, it's intricate. That's my dad clapping along.
Oh, awesome.
He was in the studio in Sydney. Cowbell.
Yep. Sorry, I didn't mean to fade it out right at the cowbell, but I guess that's a good period on that song.
That's kind of the end of the song, really.
Okay. But yeah, so that's your collaboration with the great Courtney Barnett.
That's right. Yeah, how many years between those two songs? I would say something close to not 20, but
so yeah, 45
it
years.
feels like it. Close to 45 years, yeah, emotionally. Yeah, that was a record that we made mostly just the two of us, both not stuck in Australia, but finding ourselves in Australia after, constant touring and traveling, and yeah, that was a really, really fun record to make, and that was really collaborative. And yeah, I think, I guess it's funny to hear how I was really trying, in my younger years, you're really trying to impress or prove yourself, and that is a really important phase of playing music. And I think now I'm just so much more relaxed with how I present myself as a drummer, so to speak. And that might be, some might think that's a little bit boring, but to me,
I'm not
it's
one
like,
of those people.
No, good. Yeah, it's just funny how different that is. I think, I think doing enough in my 20s, playing a lot of sessions with different people, I think what more often than not, the feedback that you get, the most common feedback that you get is just simplify everything. Yep. Just simplify it and make it a straightforward idea that is hypnotic and interesting enough to kind of sustain your interest throughout the whole song or a whole album. And I think a lot of my friends that I'm lucky enough to play music with have kind of taught me that, or really, solidified that philosophy for me. It's just simplify, make the idea really strong, let it support the song, as opposed to, in my 20s, I was always like, look how fast I can go.
Yeah. Impress the 2% of the people at most in the audience. Yeah.
Yes, the two drummers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And really even they're in the back talking to the bass players anyways. So.
Oh, yeah. They don't care. Wow. That's a really good selection of songs. Thank you.
Oh, great. Well, they're, I love them, and I do want to play the next one, which also is you on drums. And this one still, while it is a little more complicated from the onset, it is still you serving what the song starts off with, which is the guitar part. So you are still very cognizant of that. So here we go. Can't find the damn one for a long time in this song, which is cool.
One. Just kidding.
Well, there's a delay anyways, so there's I'd be like, you were on the and of 4 or something.
And 4.
Where's the cowbell on this one? That would help me.
There is a clicky SPDS
There
sound.
is. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that Teresa's playing. Yeah. No, I'm trying to remember where we wrote this.
So effective to take out that snare drum there. Kind
Yeah,
of talking
this
about
is-
being hypnotic and stuff.
This is our like dubby, our attempt at dub music. At least Jen and I.
Yeah.
Her bass line's really dubby.
Ugh, I love her bass lines.
Oh,
Yeah, great. So that was "Keep It Healthy" by your band Warpaint. So
yeah. I honestly don't remember how. You know how sometimes you listen back to things you've done and you're like, wow, how did we even do that?
yeah, exactly.
Not that it's like shockingly impressive, but it is.
It is.
It's so different to the way that we. That was like I have really fun memories of that time because we were playing in a room together so much, and I think now with not to say that it's any better or worse, but it's just so different now. Things are made in such a piecemeal way, and an idea like that could never really be expressed by sharing files around or kind of working in pairs or anything like that. I think that's very much everyone in the room listening to a riff or an idea and reacting to that in real time and then making it as elegant as possible, you know, and it's just playing it over and over again. And yeah, I feel like that's such a strength for our band, and it's something that we've kind of shied away from because I think people expected us to do that. I've heard people describe us as a jam band, which is really funny, just because we play music together and write music together
What a
in
concept.
a room. Yeah, what a crazy concept. But I think over time, I think maybe we unintentionally kicked against that collectively, and I think more and more we do talk about getting back into a room and playing IRL, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, body language is so important. When you could, if you're doing something and Jenny moves a certain way, you're like, okay, she likes that, whether she's telling me or not. I need to go down that direction, and it's yeah. I mean, it's cliche to say that, but it is in the room. You can feel that energy. So
absolutely, yeah. I think that's something that's become really apparent in the last year and a half. Trying to do a lot of sessions, writing sessions or production sessions, or even just sending drum parts to people remotely, it's really highlighted just how much I prefer to be an in the room musician, and not just because it's so much more fun, but also just the speed of ideas is so much more efficient, so much clearer when you get an immediate response from someone. And like you said, it doesn't even have to be, a vocal response. I hate this or I love this. You just know when someone's excited about an idea, and then they develop their idea based on what you've played. And I think it's it's an incredibly efficient way to make music. And I know it sounds so simple, but yeah, so much of music these days is shying away from that process. And I just love hearing that song and remembering what it was like. The good old days.
great.
Yeah.
So last week, I actually had an incredible Macedonian drummer. Her name is Martina Barakoska, and you were actually one of her top 5. And so when I found out that, I was able to get you on, I asked her, do you have any specific questions you would want to ask Stella? And she was, of course, excited. So I do have a few questions from Martina. And if you don't know Martina, I'll send you a link after the fact. She is an incredible drummer.
Please do.
Yes. But okay, so her question is, she has technically 3. The third one is, well, we'll do the first 2.
Let's go backwards.
yeah, exactly. So how does she approach, or how do you approach your sound? Your drums sound amazing, punchy and dry and big all at the same time. So how do you approach your sound? And if you do listen to her episode, the sound of your drums was a huge impact on her.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, I think that's just, I think it's as simple as that's what I like to hear in music, and that's the sonic palette that I'm attracted to. When I hear a similar kind of, almost like slightly distorted or driven but very dry sound, I immediately kind of piques my interest, and I just gravitate towards that sound. So that's I guess it's just, the answer is just, that's my taste, you know.
Yeah.
And as much as possible, if I'm engineering myself, I try to get pretty close to that. And if someone else is engineering, we'll have a conversation about what the right tone is for the song. And obviously it's not universally just one sound, but yeah, I think I guess the first part of the answer to that would be that, just taste, and then the second part would be learning to play quiet. I think that's been the most beneficial lesson that I've learned in sessions and as a studio drummer, is how much better it sounds to play really quiet and drive the mics into oblivion. So you can really, there's just so much more you can do with that sound, and it gives you so much more, like a much nicer starting point to really generate and create a sound exactly to your liking. I think when I was rock pigging in my 20s, it sounds cool, but it takes a lot of work for that to sound as punchy as it does when you're putting that kind of velocity behind every hit. You know, it has one sound, and it takes a lot more work for the engineer, or if you're engineering yourself, it's so much more complicated, strangely. Yeah. It seems really counterintuitive, but once you start playing quieter, you've just got a lot more, it's a lot more malleable, the sound. And yeah, that would be my answer. It's very long, but there you go.
Well, when you play soft, you start to like cymbals again, because when you play like a rocker, you're like, I hate that. Anytime I record myself, cymbals are the worst. And then you're like, oh, if you play them musically, they're okay. Absolutely.
We've got to play them real quiet. I've got a massive 24-inch 30th anniversary ride from Istanbul. And that's basically all I have, and I have to, in my studio at the moment, and I have to really try and make it work for even a quiet song. So sometimes I have to play it exceptionally, disgustingly quiet to make it work. But yeah, I think you're right. Cymbals, I have an aversion to crashes these days, unless I'm really playing like loud rock music.
All right, so number 2 is, how does she approach drum parts? Is it improvised, or does she know exactly what she's playing when recording? And I'm sure that's contextual, like that song with Courtney was a little more straightforward, but in general, how do you approach your drum parts?
I think for the most part, when I'm in a studio with an artist and they have a song to play to, or if we're writing something together, it usually takes the most common phrase I hear is, do whatever you feel. First of all, unless it's very rare that there's a rigid idea. Even if there is, that's just a jumping off point for whatever the drummer puts down, or in this case, whatever I would put down. And yeah, so I think typically it is more improvised than it is rigid or kind of pre-planned, premeditated. It's usually a case of just trying a few things, and then whoever I'm with will, over the course of a few takes and trying a few options, really settling on something that feels relevant.
Do you allow yourself to do kind of the lowest hanging fruit first and going from there? Or do you purposely try and I have to be, come on, Stella, step it up, because I have a hard time allowing myself to just this is what I immediately feel, but is that, they're going to be like, why did we invite her? You know?
I think generally it's, generally I try to do the simplest thing first and then do the craziest thing next. And then you can kind of find, instead of going, laboriously in steps or degrees from the simplest idea to the most complex, kind of seeing both ends of the spectrum, like from 0 to 100, and then picking the percentage that feels right for the song somewhere in between, usually. Would that be low-hanging fruit, the craziest idea?
No. I was thinking low-hanging fruit, I'm assuming it just needs a boop, boop, cat, boop, boop, cat.
Gotcha.
Do you allow yourself, that's... And again, low-hanging fruit, I guess that's maybe not the wrong way to say it, because sometimes that's perfect. But I think maybe you got what I'm saying.
The simplest idea. Yeah.
And then number 3, she'll probably hate me if I say this, but why is she so cool is her third question. So
Man, I was just
maybe that could be a
born-
whole nother episode, but
Maybe I was born this way.
I will leave it at that.
No.
We'll leave it at that.
Oh my God. No, that's horrible. I don't want that on record.
All right, thanks, Stella. That's all with the time we have for today.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks so much. See ya. No, I don't think I've ever been cool, to be honest. I don't even know what that means. But I'm very flattered that that she thinks so, at least for the moment. And I would love to meet her sometime, and I'd love to watch her play. So I really appreciate all the questions.
Yeah. All right, so let's go into your Big Fat Five. And the first one is an album that I've never been able to pronounce or never known how to pronounce. So, Anima?
I think that's Onima.
That sounds, it probably is not enema. Yeah.
I will. It's not. I think it's alluding to the idea of an enema.
Okay.
But yes, it is. We'll probably be assassinated by a Tool fan for saying that incorrectly. But yeah, in my mind, it's Onima. I've always called it Onima.
Okay. Well, that album's Onima by Tool. And it came out in 1996, and the song we will hear is Stink Fist, but the drummer's Danny Carey. So yeah, what impact did he have on you?
I started listening to Tool and Primus primarily right when I started to play drums. So I was about 13 years old, and those were my two favorite bands at that point, apart from Hanson a year prior, which was the catalyst to my drumming career. But
that's cool.
But after that, I mean, that was just really, let's face it, that was just one song. But
there's some crazy double, like the bass part in Bop. There's like 3 quick little bass drum kicks in there that I still can't play correctly. So that's a crazy song.
Great drummer.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Great drummer. Shout out to Zach Hansen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Tool and Primus are really important for me in my early years of drumming, because I learned a lot of technique from trying to play those songs, and I had a drumming teacher for the first maybe 2 years, and then he was very supportive, and basically said, I think you're more of you're a listener as opposed to a reader. And I think you seem to just grasp things after listening to them a few times. So I would say, if you wanted to go off on your own journey, just listen to the songs that you want to learn, listen to the songs that you love, and kind of develop your ability in that way. And so that just gave me this license to listen to a lot of crazy hard rock with a lot of double kick pedals. And I had a drum kit at the time that was a Pearl Masters drum kit. It was the fanciest drum kit I had at that point, my second drum kit. And I think it had at least 2 rack toms and 2 floor toms. It was like 10, 12, 14, 16.
Okay.
And I had a China cymbal, I had a splash cymbal, I had a double kick pedal, and I was just ready to play some Tool.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this is definitely, I mean, yeah, I could have maybe included something. I mean, I think Tool are an amazing band. They're still an amazing band.
I do too, yeah.
But yeah, this was definitely my teenage years and a huge inspiration when I was starting to play drums, and really taught me a lot about polyrhythms and strange time signatures and all that kind of stuff. So big shout out to Danny Carey and also Tim Alexander, who played in Primus at the time, were kind of my first 2 gods of drumming.
All right, here we go. Stink Fist, which is the first album starter on this record.
That's right. I always wonder if that's like a drum machine or something, some kind of pad thing.
Yeah. Or something, and they bit reduced it in a weird way, or what is that?
I don't know. We'll never know.
It's the sound of an actual enema, I think. So clean sounding.
Yeah, immaculate. very wet bass sound.
Mm-hmm. Well, tie into Devo, so Gunnar Olsen, who's a friend of the podcast and a friend of mine, plays in Pucifer, and on one of their first sessions to rehearse, Maynard turned to him and he's like, "Satisfaction, go." And Gunnar's like, "Oh," and he played it and he's like, "All right." Anyways, you know, it was like a test.
That is one of the greatest drum beats of all time.
Yes, it is.
100%. Yeah.
Not to take away from Danny right now.
Sorry, Danny.
So what is your relationship to technique today?
Today it's very different to when I was starting out playing drums. I was definitely more of an athletic drummer, and I think as kind of one of the only female drummers in my area and in Sydney that I was aware of when I was a teenager, I didn't have a lot of exposure to other female drummers. I really felt like I had so much to prove when I was younger. And I think all the other drummers, the boy drummers from our brother schools and other high schools, everyone wanted to nail, 46 and 2 or Lateralis or Schism, all those, very complex kind of Danny Carey moments and Tool songs and Queens of the Stone Age, Songs for the Deaf, stuff like that. That was kind of like if you can do that part or if you can play that song, then that puts you in a different kind of echelon of drumming and musicality. And so it was really important to me when I was younger because it helped me prove myself in a way. And it was very, very important to me. Now, I think not so much. I think you develop, at least I feel like I've developed the majority of my technique and my drumming skills in my kind of teenage years and early 20s. And then from probably my mid-20s to now in my mid-30s, it's been more I find myself maybe more of a utilitarian drummer, and I'm very comfortable and happy being in that role. And I want to be more of use to the music and more of use to the kind of music that I even enjoy listening to. I think if I continued to listen to hard rock and math rock and things like that, I would probably I would still be refining my technique to suit that kind of music, but the kind of music that I play and record and contribute to now is just there's different goalposts and different priorities. And so I think I've just fit into that by osmosis. So it's less important. I think I still enjoy putting in, a sprinkle of some kind of technique or self-awareness, like, well, I can do this occasionally if I want to. I feel like that to me is more fun than having to do that throughout a song, consistently. Or I think it's a really interesting question. I'm not sure. I just know that I think I have different priorities, I think, these days, and but I'm so thankful for that period of lusting after technique and really absorbing myself in that kind of musical knowledge, because I wasn't able to go to music school. I didn't go to Berkeley or anything like that, even though my parents really wanted to send me. It was just kind of outside of our means. And as a substitute, I think I listened to a lot of that kind of music and really absorbed it. And it was really, really helpful for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's just as much technical prowess needed to play consistently soft. And I don't want to say delicate the way you do, but I mean, you were alluding to playing softer and stuff. And it's just like, that's just as hard. The technique used for those Danny Carey songs is a whole different beast. It's like, it's under the blanket of drumming, but it's like you're using the ergonomics of your hands completely different and not in a less difficult way.
Totally. Yeah. I remember the first time having to just play slow and quiet, and it was like pulling teeth for me at the time, because I was so used to, being in full motion and the inertia of drumming and being really accustomed to that it felt really uncomfortable to do it at first. And I was like, I'm kind of enjoying, this is a new kind of challenge that I really enjoy.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Mm.
All right. Number 2, speaking of technique, you got Mr. Bernard Purdie. Woo. So this is Steely Dan, and the album is Royal Scam from 1976, and the song we'll listen to is Kid Charlemagne. But yeah, floor is yours.
Yeah. This is probably one of my favorite albums of all time, still to this day.
While the music played, you walked by candlelight. Those San Francisco nights were the best in town. Just by chance, you crossed the diamond with the pearl. You turned it on the world. That's when you turned the world around. Think you feel like Jesus? Did you realize that you were a champion in their eyes?
And I didn't even, when I was listening to it as a kid, I had no idea who Bernard Purdie was. I just remember, I knew Steve Gadd because my dad bought me like a Steve Gadd instructional video, the one where he's playing the black sticks. You had his signature black sticks.
I'm actually going to go see Steve on Friday. He's playing with a little jazz quartet in downtown Hollywood.
Nice. I went and saw him at the Catalina, I think.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah. So good.
Could you feel your whole world fall apart?
I remember there was some hip-hop song that they sampled the pre-chorus in this song from, and I don't remember what it was, but
I think maybe Kanye sampled a Steely Dan track. I don't want to look that up. Is that weird to do that in the middle of a podcast?
No.
I'm just obsessed with knowledge. Yes, Kanye West Champion.
There you go.
Such a good song. That's an insane groove.
Yeah. He's like, should I do the hi-hat every other time? No, every
time.
every damn time.
I cannot stop.
I almost wish I could hear the solo drum tracks of this and just if Bernard just going, oh yeah, woo yeah, the whole time. Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah.
That brings me so much joy, you have no idea.
Oh.
I feel like every time I'm in a vulnerable moment or I'm feeling like exceptionally happy that I have to listen to that album start to finish.
Sure.
It's such a perfect feeling to me, There's it's chicken soup music.
So was it just this drumming in general or Bernard kind of in the studio in general or? Yeah,
I think I only, as I got older, I kind of went into liner note territory and discovered who Bernard was and all the amazing songs that he played on. But when I was around the same time that I was kind of into Tool and Primus and those kind of bands, I was also stealing my dad's record collection, which was like Gaucho by Steely Dan. Royal Scam was, I think, the first vinyl that we had that we dubbed to cassette tape so we could listen to it in the car. And so those two albums were just on loop in the car, in the house, and it just really, I just kind of completely metabolized it. And that's, I think, why I feel so much joy listening back to it, because it really reminds me of my childhood and reminds me of Australia, and even though it's the most American sounding music.
That's okay.
Yeah, but that song in particular, I think I played that song for my end of school music exam. So that was my, I did that and a Santana song, and I think I played a John Mayer song on guitar. I think I did Your Body is a Wonderland. God, Jesus.
That's going to be the promo for this episode.
Oh, no. Oh, my, I don't want to, offend anyone, but I respect
John.
Funny.
I'll say I respect John.
Absolutely, absolutely. But there was definitely a time and place where I was like, I'm obsessed with this song.
Yeah.
And I just played it on guitar all the time. And I was like, well, there's that cool solo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I learnt that solo, and that's what I played for my HSC, which is, I don't know what the equivalent is in America, your SATs. You do like the end of school music test before you go to university.
How good were we at teaching you things? Yeah.
So good. But yeah, that was my HSC music song, one of a few of them, and played drums on that. And actually later on, I unabashedly stole that beat, but a much simpler version of it, for a Kurt Weill song called Pretty Pimpin'. That's definitely like a slightly slowed down version of the Kid Charlemagne beat without the kind of Tommy Flair parts. But yeah, that was definitely a record, apart from those other aforementioned records, that I played along to in my bedroom, start to finish. And I just love all the drum parts on it, but I also love all the guitar solos on that record. I still think the Kid Charlemagne guitar solo is the greatest piece of music I've ever heard. And yeah, it's just a pure joy to me, and a huge educator, that record for me.
Well, yeah,
still is.
Steely Dan in general is just going to school on what a studio drummer should do.
Totally.
All right. Well, going to another album that I don't know how to pronounce the name of it. Egi Bamyasi?
I think that's really close. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so, it's the artist is Can, and the song is Spoon, and it came out in 1972. And Jackie Lipzeit is the drummer, the late drummer, and I remember I had Jason McGurr on the podcast maybe 3 months ago, and he was talking about a book that Jackie wrote where he has like this whole other way to write out music, and I really need to buy it, but it's like a whole different conception of what it is.
I'd love to see that. I don't have that one. I've just got the All Gates Open Can book, which is really good.
I need to read that one too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what did Jackie, what impact did he have in your life?
I think kind of later in my like early 20s and mid 20s, and still to this day, I still kind of reference him. He's my kind of go-to reference for most things. Even if the song isn't anything like a Can song that I'm playing on, I think his ability, I think his hypnotic tendency and his technical tendencies are so perfectly meshed in everything that he does, everything that he did, I should say. And he's just, to me, he's just the top of the class. And I think just philosoph, I can just hear what he's thinking about during the song. He never steps over a single note, but he can be so flashy and so exciting. And I still think there's just so much to learn from him. And I think, in my kind of, I guess, second half of my drumming career up until this point has been kind of my guy, and someone that I feel like I try to embody his spirit even in the most non sequitur ways or non-linear ways, just bringing him and his spirit in to every piece of music that I play on. And yeah,
I love it. All right,
he's the king for me.
All right, here we go.
Oh, also the way he plays to the drum machine in this song, it's insane.
Which I can definitely hear that approach in your playing with Warpaint for sure.
Awesome. Woo. How do you even start with that?
Yeah, I haven't heard this song.
Oh. So adventurous, and yet still keeping the groove.
Yeah.
And it's all a loop. This whole section, even if it's insane, he's still just looping the idea. Classic krautrock moment.
I mean, I could hang out here all day.
Yeah, right?
Who needs chord changes?
Overrated.
Well, I completely agree.
Woo.
I also love beats that if someone just walked in the room right now, I'd be like, where do you think the one is? It's just like, I don't know. But it's still grooves. It's just like kind of
So
pick and choose
groovy.
where you want to focus on.
Yeah. I have that with a lot of police songs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Still to this day. Very painful to listen to because I can't find the one straight away. Please turn it off.
Yeah. Can is one of those bands that I do need to have like a deliberate rabbit hole, moment of my life to really get into it because
Oh my God, you're going to love it.
so many
So jealous
drummers
of you.
with great taste, and I include you in that, obviously, love him. So I don't know why. I haven't done it yet.
You'll get there. That's a great album to start with.
Okay.
That's got the hit. I mean, everyone loves Vitamin C, but that's kind of a hits record, I reckon.
Hits are hits for a reason.
That's right. The drum sound on that record as well is just really, it's really special. I don't know how they did it. I never know if he's got his snare off or on. It's like, feels like he's playing right on the edge of the rim and the skin. But it's so consistent. He's like, when you program a drum beat on a drum machine and you're like, I don't even understand what this is.
Yeah.
How did I make this sound? It's impossible for someone to play this. And then,
Yep.
He's kind of like almost close to that Aphex 20, like IDM level of just ingenuity with drumming. And I'm sure a lot of those guys listen to Can and listen to Jackie's drumming. And I just think he's a cut above the rest and very, very important drummer for me. Really like moving into the more jazz world out of the rock arena and into that kind of more intricate, tasteful jazz world that I feel like is more like I feel more attracted to that just as a listener of music than like something that just has something that builds intensity in more subtle ways. That's kind of like can get really hard as well.
Yeah,
they can go hard, but it's the less obvious route for me, I think. And his drumming is such an amazing example of that, of just building excitement without like extreme velocity or extreme anything, like lots of crash cymbals. When he plays a crash, it just sounds like a shitty trash can or something like that. Like
it did.
All the sounds are just really strange and just perfect and always hypnotic. And yeah, I'm such a huge fan.
Great. All right, number 4, Homogenic, and the artist is Bjork. Came out in 1997, and the song we'll just listen to it right now is Hunter, and it's Mark Bell / Bjork. So does that mean that she does some percussion on it?
I'm not sure who programmed the drums for this or who wrote this drum part. It's all on a TR-909 as far as my ear can tell. It sounds very classically 909, but I just feel like it's such an incredible example of genius programming that is like just intellectual and emotional in equal parts. And this whole album, I used to actually play along to this album, as if it were a drumming album, mostly just to infuriate myself and also just to kind of come up with new ideas. And I still love doing that, like playing to impossible records and not ever achieving, not able to recreate what's happening, but coming up with something really interesting in the attempt to do that. So like trying to play along to this song, I don't know, just it kind of brought something, a different element to my drumming and different element to my musical experience, trying to recreate things that were impossible or inhuman and robotic. But yeah, I also want to give credit to Björk as one of the drummers on this, even though I think Mark Bell did program this beat. She I don't think gets enough credit as a producer and as a programmer of her own music. And I know that they were very much, worked very closely on the production of this album. And for anyone that doesn't know, Mark Bell had his own project called LFO, which is to me still like up there with Aphex Twin and Square Pusher and those kind of artists. As I think he's my guy in that world. You know, he's someone that I always looked up to and just love the breadth of his work and his production work. And this was my introduction to him. Was falling in love with Björk's music as a teenager, and then going into the liner note phase where I just want to know who did everything on each record and then what else did they work on. And so Björk was a gateway drug to a lot of really interesting electronic music for me as a teenager and into my 20s. And I still think about Mark and Björk when I'm doing any kind of programming or even when I'm drumming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's one of the things that I still love about buying vinyl is the liner notes is still so important. You can't, I mean, there's credits and stuff on Spotify and all that stuff, but it's still not the same.
It's not the same. Yeah, for me it was CDs. I'm a child of the CD.
Yeah.
CD generation. But yes, still like very much going through and it's so much harder to find those intricacies now with digital music. I do always try and find who produced something, who programmed things, but it's just such a horrible and dull process now, just like going on allmusic.com or Discogs or something, and it's just like, wow, someone's Wikipedia, it just feels like hell. But sitting with your personnel. Yeah. And it doesn't say what anyone did. It's just like, these are all the people that were there. Great. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now you do the work. But yeah, I loved, that was, such a fun part of getting into music and obsessing over music in my younger years, was seeing, who played on what and what else did they do, and did they do that before, what happened before in their career, what happened after, Yeah. But yeah, Mark Bell, going back to Mark Bell, he was just such an incredible force in music, and sadly we lost him a few years ago. But he's still very much present in the electronic music world, I think, and his influences, it made such an impact on Björk's music and how this record was received, and I'm pretty sure that it's a lot of people's favorite Björk record as well, or the one that they know the best.
Okay, well, sweet. And this is the album starter, so it means a lot to Björk when she's like, this is the one I want people to hear first. So here we go,
absolutely.
Hunter.
Just wait for the snare drum. There we go.
Travel is searching and home what's been found.
Yeah, it'd be fun to watch you in a practice session trying to play this and see what you come up with. Or anyone. I mean, everyone would interpret it a little bit differently.
Yeah. I think what's funny is when you have music blaring in your ears and you're playing along to something, you're like, oh my God, I'm incredible. I'm just nailing it all. But if someone actually walked into the room and heard everything out of context, it would just be horrific.
It's all the same velocity, just
but God, it sounds good in my cans. Yeah. Yeah, I hate to talk over this because it's so perfect, but just the way that Mark Bell is opening up the decay on the snares, the way that a drummer would play really tight and then really loose on the snare, it's just like adds such a beautiful dynamic to this song. This is the big moment. And then he just closes it. Oh, it's playing the drum. I mean, he's playing the drums.
Sure.
You know. You can hear that live kind of responsive energy in the way that he's programming it. Working around her vocals and everything. It's just like so cool.
I'm going hunting. I'm a hunter. I'm a hunter. I'm going hunting. I'm a hunter. I'm the hunter. I'm the hunter. I'm the hunter.
Well, I need to go down an LFO rabbit hole as well, too. So many.
Absolutely.
That's why I love this podcast, because I kind of like liner notes for me. I'm like, oh, now I have to do LFO. Blah blah blah.
LFO is great. There's a great. I mean, it's very intense, kind of similar to the Window Licker FX Twin energy, but the video clip for LFO's Freak was kind of definitely up there. You know, when video clips were all the rage when we were kids, and that was like high art, that video and that song. So Freak's a really good one. There's also a beautiful video. I'm not sure if it was after Mark Bell had passed, but of Björk working Freak by LFO into one of her sets. You can Google that or YouTube that. Yeah, it's a really special moment.
Okay. All right, just moving on to number 5. I don't want to, but to keep it moving, let's do. The artist is Tony Allen, drummer Tony Allen, and his album Black Voices came out in '99, and Asiko. Is that how you pronounce it?
Asiko. Yeah, I guess he sings Asiko in the song, but I'm definitely not an authority. So,
but of course the drummer is Tony Allen. It's his record. So let me just play that song, and then we can talk during it or after it. But here we go.
Right.
Durode, Asiko, Asiko. Durode, Asiko, Asiko. Durode, Asiko, Asiko. Durode, Asiko, Asiko. Duro de Asiko, Asiko. Duro de Asiko, Asiko. Duro de Asiko, Asiko. Duro de Asiko, Asiko.
It's really hard to pick a good Tony Allen song, but I thought it would be more relevant to pick one of his songs from his records. Oh yeah.
That drum sound is awesome.
So sick. Not too far off the Jackie sound, the can drum sound.
And this is later in his life, and he had it till the end.
Yeah, it sounds so good. I couldn't believe that. I had to actually look up the release date for this because I just listened to this record thinking it was like in the 80s. But
Yeah.
yeah, he was making music till the very end.
And those look like presses on his left hand, which I've never been able to do that.
I don't know what he's doing. I never got to see him play.
Well, me neither.
I've seen a couple of there's some cool videos of him playing with Jeff Mills, where Jeff Mills is playing like a 909 and Tony Allen is playing along. It's really
awesome.
cool.
I want to say there's also, I'm like 99% sure it's Tony Allen and Bernard doing some like drum off kind of thing, but it's in like Russia. And they're like
What?
doing, yeah. I'll send you the link. But yeah, they're doing
my
just
God,
like
please.
it's a groove off where they just have a bass player and they kind of just go back and forth to play along with the bass. It's not like a look at my chops. It's like look at us, just hold it down.
Yes.
And they're like
I
in this
love
like
that.
almost college stadium, not stadium like football stadium, but like a class, like a class theater.
Yep.
Like 200 kids, and they're all just like watching them on two drum sets.
What the hell? When
yeah.
was that?
I would say mid 2000s, 2005, 6 maybe.
Wow. Oh yeah, please send that to me. I'd love to see it. That sounds like my dream. Yeah, I think Tony and Jackie are kind of in that same bag for me, that I like to take with me wherever I go. Isn't that sweet? Yeah, I think I just the way that he's always doing something interesting. He like created a beat. I mean, how many drummers can you say created a beat that was named? It was named something, and other people reference it, but it's yours. You know,
Yeah.
that's such a. I mean, I'm sure it's so heavily influenced by the music from his region and from Africa and probably from Latin America as well. Like there's and funk music in America and all that stuff, but very much attributed to Tony Allen, and he definitely put the flag down when it comes to that kind of genetic structure of that beat. It's always connected to him as an artist, and yeah, I hear a lot of copycats, and I always appreciate it, and I always, I think the wink, the kind of reference to Afrobeat and to Tony Allen is always really interesting, and it's interesting how it finds its way into different genres of music and that approach, because it's always exciting. Even just hearing, I mean, I've heard that song a million times and it still sounds perfect to me. And that beat still sounds really interesting, and I don't know how he does it, and only he could do it. And I just don't know how many other drummers I could say that about. I mean, maybe every single drummer in the world, but I stand corrected. But everyone's got their own thing. But there's just something quite magic about that particular beat and his approach and his touch.
I know what you mean.
So
yeah.
unique, and it's so characteristically him that even I think he played on a Charlotte Gainsbourg record maybe 10 or so years ago, and I think him and James Gadson were playing on that record, and it's just like immediately you hear it and you're like, who's that trying to rip off Tony Allen on a Charlotte Gainsbourg record? And then you look at the liner notes and it's him. And
Who's
it's
this
just
dick?
so, yeah, who is this asshole? But yeah, I just think it's, I think Jackie and Tony and a lot of drummers that I really love and respect are the ones that you really can hear it immediately. You can hear their touch, their velocity, their approach, their mind, more importantly than anything. You can hear their ideas, and they're so characteristically them,
Yeah.
They're so strong in their ideas and their approach to drumming, and they're not really jack of all trades, even though I'm sure they can do it all. But they're not displaying this kind of, this ability to just kind of do it all and you know, be the toolbox. They're very much like at the artistry of drumming, and they are artists to me more than a lot of other drummers that I listen to and that I'm a fan of. I think those two strike me as, you know, I hold them in very high regard as much as I do someone like Brian Eno or Fela Kuti or David Byrne or whatever, like people that I consider to be true artists. I think those drummers are definitely up there, and someone like Mark Bell is very much up there as well. So.
Yeah, my girlfriend just got back from New York, and she went to American Utopia and used the tickets that we were going to use in December, but we ended up canceling it because of everything that was going on. But so I've never seen David, and she got to see him, and I was like, damn it. Hopefully he's still doing it when I can get back over there.
I think so. Well, there's that movie, right? Didn't they make a movie about it?
I kind of want to see it in real life, though, you know.
I understand. I feel the same way. Everything feels, for a good few years, it just felt like so unattainable that everything moved to video on demand and watching things on Instagram. And I guess you're right. Now it's everything's coming back slowly.
But with Tony and stuff, I do agree with you. Everyone's unique, but there is a hierarchy of uniqueness. And Tony's it's like, yes, no one plays the same way, but there are people that are a little more. Yeah, an artist like that, it's like I think I envy so many people like that have their lane, because it's such a hard thing as an individual to be like, I'm going to allow other things to atrophy because I know this is my direction.
Yes.
I don't think I'm there yet.
I don't think I'm there yet either at all. I always think about that. Like, I think it's a lazy way to think, but I think it nonetheless is that it's just so hard just in art in general these days to do something that's truly unique, because, you know, and everything just feels so regurgitated. Going back, making a full circle back to regurgitator there, back to the beginning of the podcast. It's music. Yeah, just stylistic things and genres and all that kind of stuff. It feels like it starts to kind of resemble the snake eating its own tail. And there's so much still to draw from in, you know, the last century of music that's still so exciting, and I barely scratched the surface. But I was even looking at all my choices, and I was like, God, they're all from, like, the majority of them are from the 1970s, and they're still making an impact on my life, and I'm still discovering music from, you know, 40, 50 years ago that's changing my brain daily. But yeah, I can't think of anyone that has that kind of impact these days. But so many people have taken Tony Allen's, the spirit of his drumming and the spirit of his artistry and forging their own path, which is really exciting.
Well, I think that I've taken up enough of your time, but I did want to, well, I'm going to directly address that. At least in a small way, you were Martina's, you were a huge impact on her. So whether you feel like you're still working it out or not, you are that to a lot of people.
That's really beautiful.
So you're on the right path.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot.
I do want to give you the opportunity to talk about anything that's coming up. I know, or I believe Warpaint does have, you know, you're releasing more stuff pretty soon. So what's going on there?
Yeah, we have our first record in about 6 years, I think. Yes, I think it's been 6 years, coming out in May of this year. And we're going to be doing our first tour supporting that record in around May and June in Europe. And then we'll be in America around July, August, beginning of September, touring that record. So, yeah, that's the next big one. And I have an electronic project with my friend Boom Bip, who's Brian Holland, who's a producer, lives in LA, who's been a long-time friend of mine, and we've been making this album for a few years and changing the songs, and it's finally done, and we've got like the vinyl pressing and everything, and that's going to be, I think, coming out in July of this year. So two pretty significant releases for me this year that have been in the chute, ready to deploy for a few years now. So it's nice that they're going to be coming out this year, and there's the possibility of being able to tour all of them. So that's really exciting.
Well, I hope all those tours happen and that everything continues to go in the direction it's going. But
I appreciate it.
But all right, well, I will let you go. But thank you so much for taking the time. And I know I've wanted to get you on for a long time, so I'm happy it finally worked out.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time.
All right, I'll talk to you soon, okay?
That was really fun. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
And that's the show. If you're listening on a platform that allows ratings and reviews, do that. It helps more people find the show, so it'll get bigger and better, and hopefully I'll have a chance to sell out one day. But you'll be an OG listener that can brag to all your friends. Anyways, why don't you go and check us out at bigfatsnaredrum.com and follow us on all the socials. Just search for Big Fat Snare Drum and you will find us. The show is edited in part using iZotope RX Audio Editor. It's amazing, so go check that out at iZotope.com. And thanks again to Gunnar Olsen for the theme music. Bye!